recording. So I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to the City Council meeting of Yelm, Washington, December 8th, 2020. We'll have our usual beginning of the meeting by saluting the flag, and Grant will put that up for us. There we go. When you're ready, Council, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Lori Lucas, City Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember James Blair. Councilmember Molly Carmody.
Here.
Councilmember EJ Curry.
Here.
Councilmember Tad Stillwell.
Here.
Councilmember Tracy Wood.
Here.
Councilmember Joe DePinto.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Kaminsky.
Here.
Mayor J.W. Foster.
Here. Be advised that Councilmember Blair did not call in prior to the meeting. So as it stands now, this is an unexcused meeting unless the council wishes to take a different action.
Move to excuse Councilmember Blair.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to excuse Councilmember Blair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
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 Motion fails, and we can record that. The two assents were council members Carmody and DePinto. The rest dissented. So that stands. Go ahead, Councilmember DePinto.
Division, please. I didn't hear the others. I just heard 3-2.
We'll do a roll call vote on the action of excusing council member. There he is. I knew if we just took our time with this, Councilmember Blair would show up.
Sorry, I just got off the phone with Michael.
Show Councilmember Blair is attending there, Lori Lucas. Okay, so we have a full quorum and a full deck of council members. Next up is our agenda approval.
I move we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, yeah, we have our agenda for the night. So we move on to special presentations, and there are none this evening. So we'll move on to public comment. And for those attending, you know that public comment is appreciated by the City Council in two ways. If there's an agenda item, we would ask that public comment wait for that moment to arrive on the agenda. If there's something not on the agenda that citizens would like to address the council on, now would be the time to do it. If you're able to raise the blue hand, you can use the chat box. You can get my attention and we'd invite you to address council. Reminder that we ask that citizens limit their comments to 3 minutes, and we'd be respectfully listening to what they have to say. I see a hand up from Mrs. Bethany Ryan. If she's unmuted. Mrs. Ryan, go ahead and address the council.
Hello, good night. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I wanted to talk to the mayor and the city council tonight about what we've been seeing in the news about Mossy Rock opening up as a city. I want to encourage the mayor and the city council to put something together that would open up all of our small businesses in the town of Yelm. I've had heart-to-hearts with many small businesses here in Yelm, and they are going under. They're crying because they're suffering so much from all the turmoil that's going on with dictators that are suppressing our constitutional rights. about being open. These people cannot tell the small businesses that they're restricted. You cannot tell us that we have to close down. You cannot tell us that we need to buy stuff to have outdoor seating. That's not right, and it's illegal. So I'm gonna demand that the mayor ask the council to put something together, or that the mayor do something himself and follow what Mossy Rock did. It is very important for our city and for America to be standing up to tyrants that are ruining our country. So I'm asking you and urging you to stand up for America. Don't make it a political game. The last note that I wanted to say was I saw in the notes from the last time that I spoke that the secretary wrote down that I was criticizing the mayor on his official mayor page, and she incorrectly put the mayor's personal page. I criticized the mayor on his official mayor page, so do not write lies about me and my name on what I'm criticizing you about. You need to report the accurate information. I would like a direct response from the mayor.
Bethany, thank you for coming on to the council meeting tonight. I've heard your complaints and I have addressed them. I will ask the clerk to amend the minutes from the previous meeting with approval by council to reflect your request that that it refers to my mayor's page instead of my personal page.
And then I want to address you and get a response from you about what you are doing in the city business aspect of helping our town. I want you to open up like Mossy Rock did.
I'm looking forward to any proposal that a council member might provide for action as a council. As a mayor, I don't have any legal authority to act outside of the laws of the state of Washington. But if the council would like to propose something for us to consider, we'd be happy to bring that forward and discuss it as a council.
You do have
Could I say something?
Wait, please, Councilmember Kaminsky, I want to give Mrs. Ryan her full due 3 minutes.
You do have authority because the mayor of Mossy Rock did it and he did not do it illegally. So what you're saying is not right. The Mossy Rock mayor did it legally.
Thank you for your opinion on that. I go by our legal advice and I stand by what I have said. Is there anything else you'd like to address council on tonight?
I'd like to hear what Mr. James Blair would like to say.
I'll go in the order that they put their hands up. So I'll ask Councilmember Kaminsky first and then Councilmember Blair.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Bethany. I appreciate your comments, and I wanted to let you know that I did bring up this very question. I think it was former meeting or 2 former meetings back. We do need to create some kind of ordinance, and that was never done. I never talked to any of the other council members. I wanted to see how far we could go with something like that, but that is something that we could look into, and I appreciate your comments on that.
Councilmember Blair?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Couple things I just wanted to touch on real quick. Bethany, regarding Mossy Rock, I believe what that was, it was the mayor kind of proposed it, not officially, but got with the council, kind of voiced his opinion of what they would like to do. But at the end of the day, it's council that actually puts it forward and votes on it and on all that. Regarding Mossy Rock, unfortunately, just with the way it is, even though they did their ordinance that says for their businesses to open, which, and everyone knows where I'm at, I'm totally behind it. But when you come into the legal aspects, as a city individually, technically, we can't subvert the governor's mandates, whether we like them or not. That's a whole, as far as the legality of his mandates, I mean, that has yet to go through court. Fully all the way. I know there's some businesses that have successfully fought the fines. But from what I've seen so far, there's not the precedent there that makes, even if we did an ordinance here saying all the businesses can open, we don't, it's more of a show of making a stand, I guess. If that's the word I'm thinking of, I'm not totally sure of the word I'm thinking of. But it's more of like a show than actually anything happening legally, unfortunately. If we were to say, hey, all the businesses in town, you can open up, they can still face the penalties from the state. And there's nothing we can do about it. We can't stop the state people from coming in and going to the individual businesses and posting citations or anything. I spoke with a couple of people, and there's some ideas out there about trying to do sort of a letter like what the mayor did back, Mayor Foster, was it back in May or June when there was quite a few mayors that sent a letter?
Yeah.
Okay. So something similar to that, but more on the grounds of trying to gather some more data and information and having a joint letter that's sent that would be more on the lines of trying to make the case to the governor that, hey, if Walmart and everything is open and these restaurants and the gyms and everything, they're taking better precautions than even Safeway and Walmart's are, try to make the case for them to be open. But at the end of the day, legally, and until the legislature's in session and does anything else, and until anything goes through the courts, our hands are tied. I mean, we could come in here and say, hey, we're going to open up Yelm. But L&I can still come through and smack them all. And then individually, when they go through court, I mean, it could go either way. And I mean, y'all know where I'm at. But I don't know what we could do there. And I know that's probably not what you want to hear. I'm sorry.
Councilmember DePino, then Kaminsky.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Ryan, for coming out and speaking your voice and your opinion on this. I'm with the sentiment of Councilmember Blair and his perspective on it. I do want us to open up and all that, but I don't think that we can do it with an ordinance. First of all, an ordinance, it's not the appropriate tool to do this anyway. Like you said, we don't have the authority to open up like that. They would still face fines, according to to Ellen, I would fine them. But besides that, what we could do, if the council so wished to do so, is write a resolution. And a resolution would just be a supporting piece, a policy piece that would say this is something that, we encourage and we support, but it wouldn't have any meat behind it. It wouldn't have any teeth, so to say. So that's the only thing that I could suggest that we possibly do. Not saying we will, but if council should so choose to do so, we would do a resolution versus an actual ordinance, which would put like laws on the books for us. But other than that, I did have a question for Mayor Foster. You mentioned that you had an illegal opinion on opening up. I was wondering if you could share that with us.
No, I haven't asked for a legal opinion. I said that I would rely on legal opinion, but as of yet, I've not had the inclination to take any action that would require a legal opinion.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mayor. And then thank you, Ms. Ryan, for your comments.
Councilmember Kaminsky, then Carmody.
It does seem unfair that Walmart is open. Really, the only places that are really closed are small restaurants, and the killing of the small businesses is where the real concern is. And by the time we would write letters to the governor, I mean, they'd probably be gone already, or the next phase, we're locked down till January 5th. And just something interesting that was in the news yesterday with regards to fines. I think it was Erie County, New York, the controller of the state. He saw the fines come in and he granted the penalties to be repaid within 100 years. And I thought that was pretty interesting. He's like, this is crazy. We need to help these people. And that's what he did. And I thought that was just great. So I'm in for anything that will help our small businesses in Yelm.
Councilmember Carmody?
Thanks. What about, and this is, I'm just shooting from the hip here, instead of we could do a resolution, we could do, an ordinance, although I think the ordinance is inappropriate. What about a letter to the governor with the signatures of council saying, hey, we want our cities, we want our businesses to open up. We're begging you and pleading you to make this happen because our small businesses are dying. The more that he hears from people, the more he might, be willing to change his mind. I don't know, but it would be worth at least an effort to write a letter and have us all sign it and send it. And, Terry says, who knows how long it's going to take? Well, it takes like 2 days for the mail to get from Yelm to Olympia, which is, where he is.
Any other council members wish to address this? I'll tell you that I would sign that letter, Molly, if you would like to, somebody would like to draft it up showing support for our businesses, absolutely. And I would also remind council and anybody listening that you can do what you can do to support your local businesses locally. Supporting your local chamber of commerce is also an important way to do that. And of course, the city of Yelm used our CARES Act money and great part of it to support our local businesses with direct business grants. So we're trying to do what we can under the law as it stands. And any one of you could call the governor's office, could call your legislator's office and give that same opinion, and they will forward that on. But as noted prior by a couple of the council members, for this to change in a legal way and for our business owners to have the protection of the law, this would have to be a legislatively changed order. And I know our legislators are trying hard to get the governor's ear to make that happen. We'll support them in that. Councilmember Blair?
I just wanted to piggyback off what you just said about supporting the local businesses. Obviously, the restaurants, they're limited to either takeout or outdoor seating if they're able to do it. But the places that are totally shut down, get a hold of them either by phone call or you can go on their Facebook pages and message them directly. You can buy a gift card from them. It sucks, man. I talked to 5 or 6, 7 different ones just in the last few days, and like Miss Ryan said, there's a couple that are on the brink of they're about done, unfortunately. And we've got the governor doing these mandates, but there's nothing on the back end to make sure that they're going to be fine. There's a bunch of this thrown out about 50 billion or however much dollars, but $50 million over Washington State doesn't go very far. And when you have a small business that barely makes their margins a month, 2 months, and however long this was being shut down again, we're gonna be losing more. So if something doesn't change, I mean, I had to stop myself. But I think you get the point.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
I think we can also back our information with statistics, because the last time I checked, the 98597 zip code had like 120 cases. And I don't know if there were any deaths in those cases, but there are statistics available to us too, to support what we want to do.
I'd appreciate seeing a letter that we can review and then take an individual council member and mayor action to sign on to that letter as you so choose. So look forward to seeing that. Okay, you got one more, James.
Sorry. The person that I was talking to that, because I know, y'all know how I am, fire from the hip and go crazy. The person I was talking to kind of brought me down to ground level a little bit and had the idea of rather trying to do an ordinance or whatever like that, trying to get the other cities on board and doing a little more tactical letter. I would like to get with them, see what we can draft up, and then I can send it out to everyone.
Sounds very good. Thank you. Great discussion. Everybody's empathy is in the same place, and we do feel for our local businesses and those employees who have been hurt as well for loss of wages. So hopefully we all get through this healthy, and then we get our economy healthy again as well. Cheryl Dance, if you'd like to address the council, please take your 3 minutes.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, after that topic, I think my topic is quite petty compared to what you just discussed. But I sent an email out and a proposal, and I don't know if you got it. Did you all get it?
So Cheryl, let me preface that your comments, if that's what you are talking about. I did receive your email this morning. I think you sent it last night at 8 something. I didn't see it until this morning. I didn't know if you had sent it to council, so I forwarded it to them this afternoon. And I gave you a response email as well. Did you see that?
I have not seen that, no.
Okay.
So
Go ahead
it's
and
not on the agenda.
address the council, and then we'll act on what, we'll discuss what you have to say.
You know, I just want to throw this out there. I thought about it, had 2 hours. I didn't know there was a meeting tonight. And so yesterday I was told, you know, later that, oh, there's a meeting today, and I wanted to see if I could get it on the agenda. But so this is like a really vomit on paper. It's a rough draft thing that I wrote down there. And since then, after thinking about it more, I think what I wrote about was a kind of aggressive proposal. But anyway, where I live on Coach Road by the new middle school, it's horrible. And I almost hit a car tonight, so I need to be more careful trying to get out of my cul-de-sac because of the traffic. But we've had a lot of mail theft. And I was in the post office last week, and another guy was talking about mail theft, and he was on the other side of town. And I said, oh yeah, I got it on my side. And Van Trump, you know, in the newspaper, they had an article about mail theft. And this is nothing about, you know, shops, businesses being shut down, but it does impact our community. And we have a lot of theft going on right now. I have a friend that lost 2 catalytic converters Saturday night from their house. People walked right into their barn and stuff. They were out of the city, but there is crime everywhere. And so in my cul-de-sac, we're on our own trying to get a cluster box. We're trying to move our mailboxes out Coach Road so it'd be more safe into our cul-de-sac. And it's expensive to have a cluster box. And I just wonder if you guys ever do like if you think out of the box and do small community programs. The thing is, you know, I wanted you to try and get some grants, small grants. And I wrote $1,500 to be $1,000 to $1,500 to help neighborhoods purchase and install these things, these cluster mailbox. Can I finish first, Joe? Okay. And in this proposal I have, I don't know, 5 ideas, but since then there's a lot more stipulations that could be done that, you know, I know there'd be money issues, but no money would have to transfer. It would go to the mailbox people who put it in. If there's HOAs, they're out of it. But anyway, I would like you to think about it, you know, I don't know, think about it and maybe even do a 1-year program and see. I drove around Yelm today, this afternoon, and I looked to see if I could find cluster boxes. And there were a lot more than I thought there were. Most of the people in Yelm, their houses were built in the 90s, those communities. And back then, there were only 3,000 people living in this town. I moved here in 2000, and there were 3,200 residents inside the city limits. And now, I left the town for a while. I used to live in the county. I come back, and now all of a sudden I live in the city, which, you know, had been changed while I was traveling other places.
Cheryl, Cheryl, I'm gonna interrupt you only because I want to be fair to our procedure of keeping people to 3 minutes. However, I think Councilmember DePinto wants to address that, but before I give him the mic, I just want to let you to know, in my response to you, our protocol manual suggests that we take a citizen's request for an agenda item 15 days prior to the next meeting.
Okay.
So having received your request in writing and looking at our calendar for the year, the first that we could address this as an agenda item would be at the study session on January the 5th. And I've already got it scheduled for that so that staff can have some time to produce some supporting information for that, and the council can have a discussion about your proposal. Thank you for submitting that.
Thank you.
First, Councilmember DePinto, and then Blair.
Thank you, Mayor. Cheryl, I agree with you so much. I literally proposed this, and the Public Works Committee, or excuse me, not Public Works, the Public Safety Committee determined that there's not much mail theft that occurs in Yelm. It only occurs about twice a year. I disagree with that, but apparently people aren't reporting it, and it's not a big deal to the city of Yelm apparently. So I just want to let you know that I did propose it. I tried to get this going, but apparently the stats don't support it. So I love to work with you to get this going again. I tried to do it privately, but I had to get a government agency or a nonprofit to do it, and I couldn't do it for the name and to collect money and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to redo it, repropose it here probably next month. I believe the mayor said that we could put this on the study agenda for the first of January, the first Tuesday in January, and happy to chat about it and support it. I think it's a smart program. I think it's an easy way for the city to lower mail theft and crime and increase public safety at a very minimal cost to the taxpayers by offering, and I like that you put in your proposal that the people should have a stake into it, perhaps a deposit or maybe pay half of it, but just having a group discount, it's a lot. So normally I did it for a small mailbox, not a mailbox cluster, but those were $150 for the small mailboxes that were secure, were $150, but that got reduced to just a little over $100. So there's a huge discount in that. And if people were willing to pay the city maybe like 25, 50% or so, that's not that much to get a secure mailbox and have the security that your mail is going to be safe, the peace of mind that your mail is going to be safe and free from criminals. So thank you so much for your comments and your proposal. I will absolutely go to bat for you on this 100%.
Councilmember Blair.
As part of that conversation at the next study session, I would like to find out what ordinances there are that require, if a mailbox is moved, that it needs to go to a cluster box. And if that's there, why? I will say, and may not be popular opinion, I'm not a big fan of the city paying for cluster boxes to be installed. But I would be a fan of removing that requirement so that people could move and or replace their own personal ones with the secure one at much cheaper than paying for a cluster box. But I think that'll all be part of the conversation at the next meeting.
Would you follow up with an email to me, James, expressing that concern, and we'll make sure that staff gets the answer to your question. I think Councilmember Wood had was it Councilmember Stillwell? One of you. Good. Tad?
I didn't have a question.
Okay, thank you. You'll need to unmute, Tad.
Yeah, the committee was based on the statistics that came from the chief. So just to clarify, we didn't make up our own stats.
Okay, further discussion on this by council should be addressed probably at the study session when you can have the facts before you again, and we can ask the chief for some more information and look at Cheryl's proposal and see if this is something that the council wants to forward to a subcommittee or take action on it at a future city council meeting. Thank you, Cheryl, for bringing that in to our attention. Is there anyone else from the citizens attendees who would like to address council? And just so you know, Mr. Jeffers, your comments are being captured in the chat box. But no comment from you is indicated. So we will then end the public comment period of the meeting. And we will move to ask the council to appreciate the consent agenda. However, based on Ms. Ryan's comments earlier, I would ask that the minutes from December 1st be pulled from the consent agenda to be amended to address her concern that she didn't feel that it was worded correctly and that she would like her comment to be referred to my public mayor's page. That was her comment. I believe I've captured that correctly. Lori, can you make that change?
Yes, I will.
Councilors, is there support from you on making that amendment to those minutes?
So moved.
Okay.
Mayor,
So-
whatever's accurate, is that accurate that it was your Facebook?
I'm simply referring to what Ms. Ryan would like her comment to have been. The way she stated it in the meeting and the way it was recorded is different. So the minutes will now reflect an accurate representation of what Ms. Ryan said at the meeting. The veracity of it is still up to the interpreter. So with that agenda, with that amendment to the December 1st minutes, you do have, again, the consent agenda to approve.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
It needed a second to add that, to make that revision.
Thank you. There was a second to, there was a motion to approve the amendment to the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. So we have the amended minutes from December 1st along with the minutes from November 24th. So now a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll give that second to Councilmember Wood. I think he snuck in there. Yeah. Very good. Okay, new business then. Michael Graham, are you able to unmute? There you go, sir. We'll talk about the FOP one-year contract extension.
Sure. Council, I know we've talked about this several times in executive session, and the short version is this is the contract that's before you that ended up being negotiated between the city and our attorney and the police union. The contract, as you know from reading the packet, has a cost of living for 1 year and 1 year only. Obviously, the COLA has a compounding impact and does carry forward into subsequent years. What this does is this carries forward the existing contract as it's currently written, with one modification that allows for more flexibility for the chief to determine the schedule. It was a win-win for the officers and for the department. And realistically, this just bridges us to a more certain, stable economic time where we can actually have a more in-depth, longer-term contract negotiation, which would not be for a year. It would most likely be for somewhere between 2 to 3 years on a longer-term horizon. But considering the economic volatility and uncertainty of things right now, we feel that just doing a bridge contract for 1 year was the best situation. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. I also understand we've talked about this a lot. So Councilmember DePino.
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering, I saw the schedule and I was wondering if you could, one, go over that a little bit more, and then two, could you go over the rate increase, the COLA increase they're getting and the fiscal impact it is to the budget?
Sure. Was that a question for me or the mayor? Mayor, do you want to take that or do you want me to?
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay. The schedule, I can't remember the name of the model that it follows, but what it allows is for more longer days on and then more longer days off, so that you have our police officers working more consecutive days and longer periods of time, and then they get a commensurate number of times off. And forgive me, I don't have the name of that schedule or that model. I'll be glad to send you a follow-up email on that. But it was something that the police union was seeking for themselves, and it was something that our leadership command staff was open to. And then as far as for the cost of living, the end up cost of living is around 2.5% for the police. And I believe that has somewhere around the tune of a $73,000 impact to the general fund. Maybe more. That was the email that we sent you. We're still doing the calculations of that impact to the budget, and that'll be something that'll be pointed out and specified when we bring the budget to you on the 15th.
And a follow-up, if I may. Do we have that money? Do we, because I know we budgeted for 1%, which is a lot lower than the 2.5. Where are we getting that money at?
We're going to have to take, as of right now, we're going to need to spend down the reserves to support that contract for them. And most likely we'll have to come back and make cuts.
But the cuts would be not necessarily to one department or another. It would have to be cuts within the general fund, which comprises many other programs within the city. But to answer your question more succinctly, yes, we have the money. It's just not from the place that we would like to take it. And moving into 21, 22 and the next biennial budget, we're going to have to find revenue streams that support these raises, which is a part of doing business. We expect this, if we were to take this contract out to the next step, which would be binding arbitration, we could most assuredly be at the same rate, perhaps more, with the additional costs of the arbitration, which can lead to $40,000, $50,000 or more. Councilmember Blair, was that a request for comment? Okay. Councilmember Carmody.
Thanks. So what from what I understand is you'll be asking us to authorize you to sign this memorandum today. Is that what I understand?
That's correct.
Okay. So while I applaud the efforts of the negotiating teams, I really have to voice disappointment in the actual request. I think that 2020 has been a very difficult year for a lot of people. It's been an incredibly difficult year for, as we've just seen, a lot of small businesses who are going out of business. And, you know, for government employees, including the prosecutor, who we know asked for a 30% raise, and the police and other parties, to be asking for raises in this year is just incredibly tone deaf. And I honestly think it's just inappropriate at this time. I don't understand why they wouldn't agree to a 1% placeholder, but a lot of people have lost their jobs, and to be asking for raises at this time, at this date, in this year, is not only tone deaf, it's just, it's cruel to the public, because the public wants their city to be representing them and to be protecting them. But we're you know, these public employees can't just, I hate to use this word, but suck off the teat of the government. Use the public's money. This is not appropriate. I'm not going to be voting yes on this memorandum.
Councilmember DePino.
Thank you, Mayor. I get that sentiment, Councilmember Carmody. I do have frustrations with, well, not just the FOP asking for raises, but others as well. I hate to say it, but I do think that they're in a unique position. Not that all jobs are equal or the same, but they have a very dangerous profession, especially in today's day and age. and be it a small increase of for their COLA. I do agree with that. I know the timing's odd, but if this was not a odd year, this would be a normal, if not, in my opinion, more a higher cost. And I do think they came down in negotiations. So well, with that, I'd like to move that we authorize Mayor Foster sign a 1-year contract extension with the Internal Order of Police with their memorandum of agreement for a 1-year contract extension.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Curry. Is there more discussion? Councilmember Wood? You have to unmute, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to just throw my 2 cents into the discussion here, and I agree with Councilmember Carmody that, under normal circumstances, we might be in a position to really discuss this. But just from what I've experienced personally in 2020, it's personally doing what I have to keep my business afloat due to all this ridiculousness that's taking place right now. I think it's absolutely out of line for them to even bat an eye at us willing to say, hey, look, we're going to give you a 1% when everybody else, every one of us is going in the other direction here. And we're actually discussing this. I mean, this is amazing to me. So that I will be a hard no on this. And I believe it honestly should go to the arbitrator and let them, hopefully we're dealing with people with some compassion and with some touch to reality here. And that's my 2 cents. Thank you for letting me add that.
Okay, I think we have Councilmember Blair in queue and then Councilmember DePinto.
This isn't easy because I know our police department is pretty awesome, especially compared to a lot of other ones, even in this state and throughout the country. But to be blunt, the fact that this pisses me off. You got people out there there's some people that haven't worked since March. We've got our businesses in town closed and completely screwed over. And I'm friends with some of the cops in this town, and I don't feel like it's them. I feel like they're other people that are pushing this crap. And I can't vote to throw an extra 70 grand at the police department when we got people in our town getting screwed. I'm sorry. Whoever pushed them to vote for this and push them to do this, I'm going to reserve the words that I want to say.
Councilmember DePinto, then Stillwell.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to point out that our revenue, and I totally understand where businesses are. I totally get, movie theaters shut down, the bowling alley shut down, the bars and restaurants are very reduced capacity, barely making it. But that's not all of our revenue. And I'm not saying this cold-heartedly, but when we have increases for the city, we were expected earlier this year. We kept being told that finances are dire this year, things are going bad. This isn't an issue about whether we're making money or not. I get the sentiment. I get that 100%. We shouldn't be taking raises as city employees, as the government, when there's people in our town, businesses that are struggling. And I get that 100%. I totally understand that. But on the same token, look at our budget. We're making so much more money in sales tax revenue. We're making more than we anticipated this year. And what do we spend? I mean, if you want to look at the budget, take a look at that. Why don't we reduce some of that stuff, the spending on there? Instead of holding the line to what we were in the past, we're increasing it. So, you can say all you want about police being greedy or what you want about it, but this is a contract year for them. It's not like they were trying to do this to spite us. This happens regularly. Every so often, I think 3 years or so, or 2 years, they renegotiate their contract. This is just a contract year for them. Yeah, they could have delayed it, or they could have done what the city wanted, at a much lower amount. But just because this is a bad year for certain businesses in Yelm, and again, I totally understand that. The city of Yelm is collecting our money. We're getting taxes. We're getting more than we thought we were going to get. We're increasing the budget in different areas for travel and training. And you got the explanation on that, why it's necessary. I'm telling you, in my opinion, this is necessary for them. These people put their lives on the line every single day for us. This is the most dangerous profession in the city of Yelm's government. And for us not to recognize us, and last year, just to put it in perspective, last year, a union got 3% in their negotiations. I believe they're being reasonable at the 2.5% cost of living increase or adjustment that I think is very reasonable. And I urge you to support your police because we need to keep them fully funded here. And I would urge you to go ahead and support yes on this vote.
Council, bear with me. I'm keeping track of when people put their hand up for recognition. We're going to go with Council Member Stillwell, then Blair, then Carmen.
I will. I'll keep this fairly short because Councilmember DePino hit most of what I was going to talk about. Well, I understand it's tough on us. Most of us are small business owners or have friends, and we're all such a tight-knit community, but we also have to balance the expenses. If we go to arbitration, say, whatever, we're going to spend $50,000. We're probably going to give the 2 or 3% anyhow. And I think we all support law enforcement, even people that are strongly against this. I don't think it's a vote against the police by any means, but I do think that the team worked really hard. I think it's probably a fair amount. While it's not convenient timing, I think that we probably should show some support and take care of these officers and their COLA.
Councilmember Blair.
I just want to be very clear that I don't not support the police. I think I made that crystal clear while I was talking earlier. I saw a comment come up, something about please don't defund the police. We're not talking about defunding the police. We're talking about the raises that are part of this. And Councilmember DePinto, you brought up something about a union that got a 3% raise last year. Last year isn't this year. And while we're seeing that we're getting about the money we expected, by no means are we getting a whole extra amount of money. It's just you're seeing more sales tax, but others are dropping to where it's just balancing out. The travel and expenses one or training, I can almost guarantee you that's already going to get cut. Let me backtrack. Can't guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure that's probably going to end up getting cut. And that's only like $13,000. So that's not going to be some huge impact. Me, like I said before, I came into this guns blazing, ready to roll. And then I actually looking at this, but what are we going to cut? How are we going to make up 75 grand? And then a year from now, they're going to ask probably for another 2.5%, 3% to get to the 6 that they want. Where are we going to bring the money from? Because I'll say one thing with this finance committee, and finally we're starting to get rolling and trying to and actually understanding the details. I don't know where to cut it to get that much. So unless we're bringing in another huge business that's going to bring in $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year in revenue, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't want to vote no, but I can't vote yes on this. Like I said, when other people are getting screwed. I mean, I don't get a 2.5% increase every year. I don't get all these things, and I understand the rationale behind it and why these things happen and all of that. But I'm in a rock and a hard place here.
Councilmember Carmody, then Kaminsky.
Thanks. So first of all, I know that we have our differences of opinion with the police department. I like the police. I don't dislike the police. I do not believe in defunding the police, as somebody might made a comment. I don't think anybody here does believe in defunding the police, but I think that the police need to understand that they are part of this budget. And I don't think that they get that. I don't think that they get that 2020 has been a bad year. And Joe, you claim that we're making money. You claim that we're making tax money, yada, yada, yada. Well, that's great. But like Blair said, that's this year. That money's probably going to go down the next year after these businesses have closed their doors. And the fact that you're treating businesses here in Yelm as your own personal slush fund for the police. I mean, you're saying, oh, look, we've got all this money. Let's spend. Aren't you a Republican? Aren't you supposed to be where's this tax and spend coming from?
Point of order.
Councilmember Carmody will keep her comments directed towards the issue rather than making a personal attack on another
Right.
council member.
Okay. I rescind that. I think that this is inappropriate at best. I think that 2020 has been a difficult year. And I think that the revenue that certain members of this council think that we're going to have next year aren't going to be there. I think it's going to be a lot less. And to try and give somebody a 2%, 2.5% raise now when they're just going to try and come back and renegotiate to go all the way back up to 6% is not appropriate.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
I wanted to ask Michael about this Kennewick model and just very, very simply review for us what happens if we do accept this, what happens if we don't, and what is your experience with this type of situation? Just for crystal clear guidance here.
Well, the Kennewick model adjusts the terms of the contract that gives the chief the flexibility to set the schedule. Currently, if you read the contract, then the language that was deleted has a very specific contract that is spelled out in the contract, and this eliminates that language and gives the chief the flexibility. So that inflexibility would remain. At the same time, the current model that we have is not broken. If council rejects this contract, the next step would be for us to go back to the union and communicate that with them and continue the conversation. In the end, as the mayor articulated, if we don't come to an agreement as we did through the mediation, we could go to binding arbitration, and an arbiter could look at the finances and look at the revenue and look at other factors. I've never been to binding arbitration, in full candor, so I don't know exactly what all those factors are that they look at. But the end result is an arbiter would determine what the benefits would be for this time frame that we're looking at.
And is it true that Council Stillwell said that this would cost like $50,000, or is there a cost to this arbitration to us?
Yes, there would be a cost to the arbitration.
You mentioned
in addition to whatever.
Somebody mentioned 50,000. Is that
the mayor had a figure that he threw out. I'm not specific on what that figure would be, but I could also research that and follow up with you if you want to table the contract, which is also something that you could do.
I mean, just in terms of numbers, if it costs us 50 to fight about 70, I mean, that's not worth it. So I'm just trying to put that in perspective.
I want to give more answer to Councilmember Kaminsky, and that was the 50,000 was a starting number that our legal representative from Summit Law gave us during our negotiations team discussion. That was what we could expect from his experience with binding arbitration. The cost of moving to the schedule was not really a significant cost. It's not a large amount of money, and it actually is a benefit to the city to move to the schedules. It's not really something that was difficult for us to agree to. We were mostly concerned with the percentage of COLA. So just to help you understand that. And on my list, I have Councilmember Curry and then Councilmember DePinto.
My feeling is that I don't want to go to binding arbitration. They could raise it. Plus, we would have extra money we'd have to pay for the arbitration. I don't think that they probably should have asked for 2.5, but I'm with Joe on this one. It is a dangerous profession. And, you know, it is what it is. And I'm willing to go ahead and support this one-year contract.
Councilmember DePinto?
Thank you, Mayor. I think there's been some very astute comments here regarding the cost to the city if we do not agree to the 2.5%. Honestly, it's been mentioned, but there is going to be a hard cost for attorney fees and all that, different legal fees that we have to pay for. 50,000, that may be higher, might be lower, but that 50,000 on top of whether or not we have to pay a higher increase. That 2.5% might seem high for us right now. What if the arbiter says it's going to be 5%? That's a huge hit to the city, huge hit. And not only that, what happens if he did? I mean, we could roll the dice. So there's a chance that the arbiter could say, no, City of Yelm's right. They're not making that much money. But do you want to take that chance that, and I know you think that it's just possible for 1 year that we have this increase of money. But what if the arbiter's like, no, you guys are making more money than you should be, or you say you're going to be making, you have enough money to fund this. So we take the chance of losing or winning. There's no in between on this arbitration here. We're going to pay out big. We're going to save some money. And if the choices comes back and says, all right, it's not going to be 2.5%, but it's going to be 2%, or it's going to be 1%, or it's not going to be anything. He could say, no, we're going to hold tight where we're at. It's fair. But that's the best case scenario, that he says it's going to be either a 1% or it's 0. And on top of that, we're still going to have to pay that 50,000 in arbitration, in legal fees and all that stuff. So 70,000 this year, or at least 50,000 guaranteed if we go through this, in my opinion.
Okay, in the queue, we have Councilmember Blair, Carmody, and Wood.
Quick question. If this didn't pass, does it go back for further negotiations, or are we going straight to arbitration?
This will go back to the FOP membership. They will consult with their legal representative, and they would have the option of coming back with another offer, or they could just say, we're ready to go to arbitration. During our more than 12 hours of discussion with the FOP, when the negotiations team, I would lean heavily toward their decision of moving toward arbitration. But it would be up to them to make that decision.
Because what I'm thinking, I'm sure if we cut the travel training and there was a couple other little random things, we could probably find half of that. Are we able to kick back offering half of this, or is that not even worth it?
So I'd recommend that council focus on the discussion of the memorandum of agreement for tonight. Once the decision has been made, the executive team will give you a follow-up at a finance committee meeting on recommendations on how we would go forward to fund that agreement, if that's okay. That'd be my recommendation.
Okay.
Okay. Councilmember Carmody?
Yeah, so people have been asking, well, what happens if we go to arbitration and the arbitrator forces a larger raise than what we have negotiated to this 2.5%? And the answer is that if we run out of money, somebody in the police department is going to have to get fired, or somebody elsewhere in the government is going to have to get fired. It means jobs getting lost. If we can't afford it and we can't make this work, somebody's going to start losing their jobs. I mean, and that's what happened in 2008. You know, the governments ran out of money and people started getting fired. And that's what's going to happen here if we can't afford their raises, the 2.5% now, and, you know, maybe back up to another 6% next year. I mean, that the simple math is that if we can't afford it, people lose jobs. And if they want to go that way, I'm all for it. If they want to push, I don't mean that they should lose their jobs, but if they want to push us, then that's where it's going to have to go. But I don't want anybody to lose their jobs. I really don't. I don't think that anybody should. But if we can't afford it, we're going to have to start letting people go, period.
Councilmember Wood?
Excuse me. I believe Michael said something earlier when the question was asked as far as what do we, you know, if this goes through, you know, we have the funding in, you know, the reserves to carry it through initially, but it's going to lead to a further conversation once again about, you know, somebody's going to lose their job. If, you know, there's huge potential that down the road, someone's going to lose their job. And I think that one thing that this council's always been really aware of is careful hiring people and careful how we're doing things, just because that ultimately was seemingly the one thing we wanted to avoid more than anything, was having to hire people that we, you know, ultimately have to let go because of, you know, we didn't make the right decision, or because the funding changed, and we didn't anticipate. And, you know, with that being said, I think that you know, everybody's saying that, well, if we go to the arbitrator and the arbitrator says, okay, we could get nailed by this, but what if we don't know what the arbitrator is going to do? I mean, I personally haven't spoke to him, and, you know, I honestly can't tell you. But what I can, the way I understand it is it's somebody who doesn't really have a dog in the fight necessarily, who's going to take into consideration the realities of what the decisions we're making. And I think that with that being said, I'm not convinced that an arbitrator would say, yeah, sorry, Yelm, you're on the stoop for this one.
Further discussion by council? Councilmember Kaminsky?
Michael, you were talking about that bridge thing. That was just something to go over the next year. And then we're on to finding money in the next consecutive budgets. But can we do it this year? Can we make it this year?
Yes. Yes. The key thing is council would, in the budget that you would adopt at this point, you would just be mindful that you are dipping into the ending fund balance that is contrary to your defined policy of the reserves that you want to keep on hand. The good thing is about that, or the okay thing, is that this is just for 1 year. Now, essentially, this is a COLA and a raise that they would get that would, you know, carry forward and be part of their total cost of compensation. It's not like you get it and then you pull it back later. It will always be with all of their salaries going forward. But it is only for this year. And next year, we will have a larger, longer term conversation about the contract. We will actually look at compensation levels of other cities. Right now, there really aren't comparable cities, because some cities that we would normally compare to, they're doing okay. Others have laid off staff and have forced early retirement. And so we need to wait for the economic impacts of COVID to level out, look at who our comparable cities are, and then look at what the salaries are that we pay and make sure that we're comparable on that aspect. And then, you know, the thing for all of us to remember is, and this is so easy to forget, we had a conversation with the Teamsters today and needed to explain it to them. A COLA is a cost of living adjustment. It's not intended to be a pay raise. That's when you do a compensation study. You should look at what the CPI is, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics spelled this out for you. And so often it's consumed of, confused with, hey, we want X, Y, and Z percentage. The cost of living is supposed to adjust for what's happening in the economy in real time and be a modest adjustment and correction. It's not intended to be a pay raise or a pay adjustment. And we will have all those conversations early next year for a longer term horizon. This is just a bridge to get us to that conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Wood?
Well, on what Michael just shared with us as far as the whole cost of living and it not being a raise, I think that my council members and I should probably work together and maybe consider unionizing, considering in the last 12 years, the Yelm City Council has gotten one raise. And it was it wasn't a matter of we demanded it. It was a matter of an organization not associated, a group not associated, deciding how much we were worth. And it seems like this is a pretty big switch of the coin. All of a sudden, what it costs them as far as the cost of living is not a raise. But it just, I mean, that's amazing. That's so, it seems so out of touch with the rest of what's going on here. I mean, honestly, for clarification purposes, I am not looking for a raise. What I'm saying here is this just seems like, by you stating that this is not a raise, that's amazing to me. You're making more money. That's a raise in your salary. I understand the cost of living goes up, but guess what, Michael? It goes up for every one of us, including those of us that are business owners that are just trying to make it, that have lost a shitload, pardon my language, of money this year due to this situation. So that's so insensitive and out of touch to say that's not a raise. Once again,
let me be clear. What I was saying, this is important. What I was saying is it is not intended to be a raise, and this is something that we need to reset in our union negotiations and conversations, because really a COLA should be a simple adjustment that is made and pre-calculated every year, and it's been taken out of context and has become something that it's not intended to, which it is not intended to be a raise.
Well, I completely disagree with you, because that sets its completely separate precedents for government employees or established large corporation employees to sets a precedence that in fact they will get a raise because the cost of living goes up. But those of us in the real world don't have that luxury of a cost of living allocation. So I just think that is just, I mean, it's so out of touch with the working man who works harder for more money and works longer for more money and figures out how to make more money, being more ingenuitive and making better use of their time, better time management. Not, hey, the cost of milk went up, so I think I'd get a raise, I deserve a raise. And that's in essence what you're kind of saying here, is if it's just expected and it's just the way it is. And I tell you, it's a little frustrating for those of us on the other side that don't live under under that luxury.
But isn't that the nature of a union, Tracy?
Hold on, Councilmember Blair, then Councilmember Kaminsky.
In those future talks that have to do with COLA, yet Councilmember Kaminsky, to respond to that, then COLAs typically are only seen in unions. And I don't necessarily have a problem with unions. It's just this is out of 2.5% isn't a COLA. A COLA is like 10 cents an hour. I got COLAs for 10 years. Biggest one I ever got was like 25 cents an hour. And I mean, I know there's probably some other people that want to talk, and this isn't easy because I don't want to be portrayed like I'm not supporting our police, but there's no way in hell I'm supporting this. Not right now, and I'm sorry. Because and unfortunately, I think their union representatives have fired them up about it. And if and when it goes through, because whether we do it here or we don't come to some kind of agreement and it goes to arbitration, something's going to happen. Unfortunately, like Councilmember Carmody said, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot and someone's going to get laid off. And I've seen it happen when I was a union guy. We'd all fight, go strike, get what we wanted, and we get what we wanted, and then guess what? 5% of the workforce got laid off afterwards because we fought for what we wanted. So, I mean, whoever else says what they have to say, but I'm ready to vote. Unfortunately.
Councilmember Kaminsky and then Councilmember Stillwell.
I was just going to say, last meeting, Council DePinto was all about like, oh, we need 2 new police officers. well, we can't afford that, but I definitely would like to keep the officers that we have. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not experienced with unions, so I honestly don't know about this, but I would imagine every union in the country is still going to do their union thing, no matter whether this is the pandemic or not. Is that correct? I mean, it's the contracts. And I would still like to know, Michael, if you had experience with this in other times in other cities and how it worked out.
I haven't had the experience of going to mediation or binding arbitration before. Typically, what this does, and James actually said it very well. And again, Councilmember Woods, I apologize if I'm not speaking in a way that resonates with what you're saying. But the way this normally works is you look at what the cost of living is, and as James articulated, right? It's pennies on the dollar. It's a slim margin of an adjustment that is made. Separate from that, you look at employee compensation and you make sure that the people that you're paying in certain positions, that those salary levels and those scales are competitive to recruit and retain a competitive workforce. And so the COLA, so to speak, is that was, and remember, this is what was resolved. This is not what was asked for by the police, as Councilmember DePino said. You know, this is what was resolved as part of the mediation, that this outcome is higher than the CPI. But the thing of it is, we get to have that conversation more comprehensively next year about comparables and wages and things like that. And when we look at those comparables and we look at the longer term, and depending on what that data shows us, we're probably not going to be inclined, let alone, as Councilmember Carmody said, have the resources potentially to make the same offer or adjustment as we did now for either COLA or compensation. But the key thing is, right now, we don't know what that will look like, which is why a bridge contract, a 1 year, to get us to those more certain times where we can do a more comprehensive analysis on compensation and COLA, which are and should be separate. Normally, you just do a COLA that's simple indexed to the CPI, and it's a simple slight adjustment.
So you feel it's a good intermediary transition that we can handle?
Can we afford it? Yes, we can dip into the reserves or to the ending fund balance, and we can absorb it for a year. Is this something that we can keep up and sustain at this level based on the information that we have right now? No, but we're not talking about a COLA at 2.5% next year and 3.5% and 4.5% next year. We're just talking about right now, present day, as a bridge to get to that longer term conversation. I did, and to give, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I did reach out to our labor attorney, and I asked. I said the council is asking specifically what the cost of arbitration is, and he said it could range anywhere from 25 to 30 to 40 to 50,000. The challenge of and as far as for the process, the mayor articulated it exactly right. We would return to the bargaining table, and then if no deal, we would go to interest arbitration, which would then cost more money.
Councilmember Stillwell?
I think that, I mean, it's going to be pay now or pay later. And I think the police officers are also, they know that if we can't afford this in the long run, they're going to suffer some cuts as well as everywhere else in the government. It's not going to be lay off an officer or whatever, I'm not catastrophic thinking, but they also know that if they're unreasonable, that there will be cuts and people will be let go. So I think that we know what the expenses are or could be at this for the next 12 months. And I trust that the team would go back and be like, all right, well, now we're going to negotiate for real. we're going to call it a raise, we're going to call a cola. So your raise is X and your cola is 25 cents. There you go. And I really think that it's just very, very dangerous ground to risk arbitration. I've just by profession, I've been around it. I see how it works, and both sides are usually surprised.
Council, I want to give you the benefit of my experience in the fire service, union firefighter for 34 years on both sides. I wrote union contracts and I wrote administration contracts and argued on both sides of them. Not having to use a mediator and successfully avoiding binding interest arbitration, I can tell you that my research in that field demonstrates that PERC, the Public Employees Relations Council or Commission, arbiters tend to lean heavily toward the benefit of the employee in considering these contract negotiations. That said, it's still up in the air on what they would actually do. But they do tend to historically lean in that direction. Secondly, understand that you as a council will be brought 3 different collective bargaining agreements for consideration next year. We'll start negotiations in mid-year with the AFSCME group that represents the administration folks, the Teamsters, if they agree to the 1-year extension of agreement, just like we're asking the FOP for, and the FOP will all come up for negotiations for longer term contracts starting next year. This is an extension of this contract, not a new one. The one thing, without tipping my hat on which way I would prefer you to go on this, because that's not my job, but I'll tell you that during the many, many hours of discussion that we've had in these negotiations, it becomes abundantly clear that to maintain the support of this police force that we have, what this proposal represents is adequate to do that and get us through to the next year where we can have more informed discussions on both sides, understanding better what our economy is going to do to support that. That's why we asked them for a 1-year bridge. That's why the mediator suggested the 2.5% cost of living allowance adjustment. And that's why we've brought this before you tonight. And Michael has iterated quite well that the next step would most likely be for them to, the FOP membership to vote to take this to binding arbitration. And we'll still end up in the same spot in June or July at that point. So before you is this motion with a second and robust discussion. Is there any further comment before I call for the roll call vote? Okay, on the matter of the memorandum of agreement extension, how do you vote, Councilmember Blair?
No.
Was that a no?
No, nay.
Councilmember Carmody?
Nay.
Councilmember Curry?
Yes.
Councilmember Stillwell?
Yes.
Councilmember Wood?
No.
Councilmember DePinto?
Yes.
And Councilmember Kaminsky?
You're muted, Terry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry.
The motion passes 4-3 in favor of extending the contract for 1 year. Thank you, Council, for this difficult decision. We will transmit the information back to the FOP and work with the finance team to mitigate the effect of this moving forward.
I thought Councilmember Kaminsky was trying to milk that last vote.
Sorry, I didn't mean to create suspense there.
All right. So Council, we now move to new business 6B, Ordinance 1071, the biennial budget. And Michael Graham will preface this with some late breaking news about our finance director position. And we'll move into the discussion there. Michael?
Yes, per the email that you all received, the finance director needed to go on personal leave. I won't go into the details, but as you know, that she has had some hard times lately, and I won't go into those details on public, but you're aware of them already. She will be out through Christmas. And so what she was in the process of doing was updating the budget numbers based on the impacts of the COLA for the FOP. So that is something that I will do with Sandy, the finance person that you know of, that we've been working with, who's been helping Heidi with the budget. So we will finish that. And as my email articulated to you, our next steps will be, we will review the 2021-22 budget as a management team on Thursday. We will come up with a plan, either temporary or recommended plan of action for you to take in February when you do the quarterly budget adjustment. And we will put that before you at a special meeting on the 15th at 6 p.m. What will happen is we will put that document in the packet just like we normally do. We will have a finance committee meeting the Monday before that meeting. So that'll be on the 14th, just again to give the finance committee an opportunity to dive into the details and go over everything one more time. Realistically, what will happen is council knows you have to adopt a budget by the end of the year, December 31st. We will actually close the year out. And as January begins, we will see what the actuals to the budgeted numbers were. We will then go through and look at how the Q1 happens, and then we'll start our regular cycle of doing quarterly budget adjustments. And when we look at the year-end balance, and when we look at the impacts of the COLA, and we also look at and consider that we're still negotiating with the Teamsters. They came in with some very high numbers as well that they would like to see for themselves today. And we are not close to a contract being negotiated or finalized with them. Then we will most likely have both recommendations and a robust budget discussion come February during your first quarterly budget adjustment of 2021. So those are the next steps. And as far as we know, Heidi will be back. She needs to take a medical leave, a personal leave, most likely through the Christmas holiday. Councilmember DePino.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there any action required of us tonight then? Or can we just simply do nothing and move forward?
We just wanted to give you that update following in public, following up on the email that we sent to you all.
Thank you.
And Joe, that's twice you've called Michael Graham mayor. So I don't know if you're trying to hint around about something, but he's done that, been there.
I think he's respecting the mayor emeritus title. I think that's what Councilmember DePino is doing.
You say it 3 times and it happens, just like in Beetlejuice. So
been there, done that. Wouldn't wish that on anyone. God bless you, Mayor.
Yeah. So the point of what Michael's saying is that although we've had a lot of discussion on the budget, we're going to have a special council meeting on the 15th. And I hope everybody that works out with your schedule will need to have a quorum to move the budget forward. Any other questions on that action item? Okay. Then we go to old business, and Michael will walk us through what we hope to be a legislative agenda that we can all agree to, that you all can agree to.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, Council, this is reflective of the conversation that we had and our tradition of trying to come together and adopt priorities for us to convey to state and federal elected officials. The information on page 1 is essentially the highest set of priorities that we have, those things that we will actively work and invest time and energy and resources in. Those are all things that we've identified as staff and you've identified as council as the big rocks, the highest priorities for us. The federal legislative agenda is consistent with the Association of Washington Cities agenda. It's important for us to have, especially as we have a new congresswoman. It helps give us a focal point and a unified voice as council, staff, and mayor to speak to things that are of interest not only to the city, but also all the cities of Washington State. And the other items there are just general issues of policy importance. This is very important for two reasons. One is I included the statistics in there of the number of bills that are introduced every year. And there's around 1,400 bills in a short session, and there's about 2,500 bills introduced in a long session. It's just impossible to track every one of those, let alone try to figure out and analyze what, if anything, we want to do, a position we want to have, try to convey that back to the lobbyists. And so having these general policy issues framed up and prioritized by you is important because it identifies and gives direction to a stance that we will take on key issues that we know have come up and will most likely come up in the legislative session. The other aspect of it is it conveys support to other entities that will be down there lobbying, in addition to our own lobbyists if we choose to hire one, with the Association of Washington Cities, the Thurston Regional Council, and the Puget Sound, the South Sound Military Community Partnership. These items are all reflective of things that we have common interests with them in advocating and taking a stance on with the legislature. So with that, it incorporates the feedback that I received from those of you that I received feedback from, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
We'll start with Councilmember DePinto, then Blair.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to tell the council, I do have a little experience doing this stuff as a lobbyist. I do want to give out my 2 cents on some of this. First of all, I think we are very, it's very vague in a lot of these issues. I think that we need to be a lot more concise when we're discussing our priorities. I don't believe we should be focused on national issues at all. We don't have a national lobby or a federal lobbyist, and I don't think we've ever had one, and it would be inappropriate, in my opinion, to hire one for the federal level. And even if we did, these issues are very vague. Invest in local public infrastructure. That's not something that we could take to a congressman or congresswoman and say, hey, this is, we would like you to do something about this. They're gonna be like, okay, thanks, appreciate it. They want direct items for us. If we're looking for local infrastructure funding, it would have to be specific to maybe a state route here that would benefit us. Invest in transportation when it says that. Yeah, of course they're going to invest in transportation. Invest in safe communities, of course, but we need to be more specific than that if we want to have these federal legislative priorities, in my opinion. And if we want to hire a federal lobbyist, which I don't think we should. General policy issues of importance. Again, these are items that they make you feel good and all that, but when it comes down to it, we're not going to do any of these things. And I hope we don't direct our lobbyists to do these vague things. Maintain revenue, maintaining revenue sharing, that's actually fairly specific, but that's also up top under the state legislative priorities. Increase state revenue sharing with cities from liquor and marijuana sales. That's something that I think that we can absolutely support AWC in their efforts for that. And a lot of these bigger picture items are items that we can support with AWC. I don't think it necessarily takes a legislative priority or it's not a legislative agenda. Our legislative agenda should be very specific, very short, concise when we're talking about funding for, let's say the 510, State Route 510 Yelm Loop. When we're talking about that, that's something they could absolutely push forward, keep the momentum going. When we're asking for certain projects, if we want to talk about the water reclamation plant, we could talk about a certain budget amount, a certain like 1.5 million. That was my suggestion, 2 million or whatever the council decides to do. But again, when we're sending this to legislators, it needs to be very concise. This year, this legislative session is going to look very different than it has in past. It's going to be, I'm taking a training on it in a couple days actually about what the Senate version is going to look like for committees and how to testify, stuff like that. I'd be happy to report back next week about what's going on with that to better prepare the council and the mayor and city administrator for our discussions for our legislators. But just in my opinion, I would like to see us do away with the second page, federal legislative priorities, general policy issues of importance, and just focus on the top 5. And I honestly like to see us limit it even more than that, maybe 3 items on there. That's just my 2 cents.
Councilmember Blair.
I was gonna say the same thing regarding the federal. I don't think that's where we need to put any focus. I like all 5 of these. I just wanted to suggest changing a verbiage on the last one. Marijuana is a slang term. Can we use cannabis?
Yeah, man.
Just trying to keep it,
No,
I don't know.
no, that's for real. So we'll change it, and up-to-date terminology is important when you're trying to make your message heard by people. So thank you. I was just having fun with that. Any other suggestions, council? So let's take Councilmember Pino.
I was gonna make an amendment. To keep the first page under state legislative priorities and eliminate everything after on the second page and further federal legislative priorities further.
Is that in the form of a motion?
It is.
Second by James Blair. All in favor of the friendly amendment to the original proposal?
Mayor?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair, I'm sorry, I didn't ask for discussion. Go ahead.
Technically, do I need to do an amendment to that?
No, we'll just change the language. That's fine.
Okay. Then yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so amended. And so what you're agreeing to in the next motion would be to adopt the City of Yelm state legislative priorities, and we'll use this as a template, a guideline, an outline for discussions so that each council member can be speaking with the same emphasis points when you have an opportunity to speak to your council members or to your legislators. This is not asking you to engage the services of a professional lobbyist. This is just something for us to work on. So we're singing from the same sheet of music. So with no further amendments, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the state legislative priorities for 2021-2022. Councilmember Pino?
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kaminsky. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilmember Wood, I wasn't able to hear you. Are you still with us?
Yes, sir, I am. I said aye.
Okay, thank you. The ayes have it then. Okay, thank you. And I do want to thank Michael Graham for his work on abridging all of our different ideas and also aligning this with the regional, other regional organizations' legislative priorities. I think we speak very clearly to our legislators from the South Sound region and especially Thurston County. So good work, y'all, on that. Okay, that takes care of our business. We will go to updates and we'll start with Michael Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, Council. I've missed you. It's been so long since we've talked. I want to just give you 3 quick updates. Actually, I'll give you 2. Mayor, I'll defer to you on the tree lighting ceremony and events and the highlights there with the snowsily responsible and Christmas celebration that's happening. But the really good news that I want to skip to is we just got the official notice today from the Department of Ecology that we secured a low interest loan for the wastewater treatment plant. So the water reclamation facility has been granted to us in the low interest loan for $2.3 million or for $23 million. So it's a huge win. It's something that hasn't happened for the city. We've applied. There were several things that they wanted done before we applied for this and were granted this low interest rate, like Cochran Park being completed and the water rights being retained and secured. And they understood from the work that staff has done from Grant and Cody and all the efforts of the public works team that it's a comprehensive combined effort. We're going to do Cochran Park next year. Our water rights application is in play, and staff has proposed and council has confirmed the direction that we're going to move for the update to the water reclamation facility. And so they made an exception based on the work of the team and granted us the low interest rate. This also means that we are eligible for grants, which means that we, although it may not be likely, it's something that we will still continue to pursue rigorously to see if we can get some grant money to obviously offset that loan amount and therefore reduce the rates that the council has come up with to fund the water reclamation facility for the sewer. So it's great news there. The last thing I wanted to update you on is we did have another conversation with the Teamsters. We are far apart in where we think we should believe with a 1% COLA and what they are proposing. There is a lot of education and understanding that needs to be done of what is a pay raise, what's a COLA, what's reasonable in this time. And I don't think that we will have a contract for your consideration by the end of this year. We have another meeting set up for the 16th. And realistically, by that point, we've told them that at this point, it may not make sense to do a one-year contract because we're so far apart. We may just start diving into a longer-term contract, and that may be what we end up bringing before you. So anyway, more details to come, but wanted to let you know that that process is still ongoing, and we'll have further detailed conversations confidentially with you in executive session at either the meeting on the 16th or in the new year. So just wanted to give you the update. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Mayor, unless there's any questions, Council.
I'll take my turn at the end, but we'll start off with Councilmember Blair for council updates.
I got nothing.
Councilmember Carmody.
Hold on, let me find my screen here. At the intercity transit meeting, we adopted the 2021-2026 strategic plan. We adopted our 2021 budget, and we canceled the Wednesday, December 16th meeting. We also declared a couple of van pool vans as surplus. They have, well over 200,000 miles on each one, and they're usually valued around $4,000. So total value of the vehicles was estimated to be around $116,000. And then we authorized the general manager to grant those van pool vehicles to several different very worthy institutions, including Innovations Human Trafficking Collaborative, the Catholic Community Services of Western Washington, the Thurston County Food Bank, Interfaith Works, Safe Place, Sacred Heart Catholic Church, and Behavioral Health Resources. And they will use those vans to transport both employees and customers to wherever they need to go. So that's a great cause for that. And we executed a contract amendment with our security officers. That's about it. And then Finance Committee and Public Works Committee are both canceled for December.
Thank you. Councilmember Curry.
My meetings start this week, but I want to commend the Public Works people. The lights in the city park are gorgeous. And I've not seen a house that's not beautiful this year for the first time ever.
Thank you for that reflection. Councilmember Stillwell.
Thursday, I attended the Yelm Planning and Economic Development meeting. It was a pretty good meeting. I will let Councilmember DePinto and Kaminsky report on that. I had a meeting that was scheduled for tomorrow for the emergency management, but that's going to be rescheduled as well. Lots of changes, I think, this time of year. So that's really all I have.
Okay. Councilmember Wood.
I had my TCOM meeting last month, so it was a special meeting we had due to the traditional date of our meeting falling on a holiday. So I already reported on that last month. So I don't have a meeting until tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. And I had a really good time debating with you folks this evening. I don't want anybody to think that I'm going to go away mad. I think you all know me well enough to know that I do get pretty fired up and fiery, but I still respect each and every one of you, and I look forward to good debates and once again, we don't always get along, but I do respect each and every one of you for taking the time to get in here and do what a lot of people think they really want to do. But I think when it comes down to it, I'm not sure that there's a whole lot of people that really have what it takes to come in here and try to move through these unfortunate obstacles that we're faced with these situations, and especially in these trying times. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it off.
Thank you. Councilmember DePinto.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with the sentiment of Councilmember Wood there. With great debate tonight. I want to be clear though, whether you voted for or against that contract, or not the contract, but the memorandum of understanding, it doesn't show your support or against the police. I think we all support the police 100%. It's just a fiscal issue, and like Councilmember Wood said, I don't hold it against anyone here, and I hope that we can all have civil conversations and be cordial outside of council. With that though, I did attend Thurston EDC, the meeting, the last one of the year. We discussed a lot about some of the money that's been divvied out between all the communities. Yelm received a lot more, and I mentioned last time how much we received, but it was even more than that. And also wanted to let everyone know that we're good on our board seat. They were very happy to have us back on the EDC, and look forward to our continued partnership. Thank you, Michael, for getting all those the logistical aspects of it taken care of. Appreciate that. And had the community development meeting with Councilmember Stillwell and Kaminsky. I'll try to leave you something, Councilmember Kaminsky, but we did talk about wayfinding signage and how that's going to be try to work with the existing funding, specifically the hotel tax fund. I'm saying that wrong. Hotel tax fund. What's that? Anyway, it's a dedicated fund though. The tourism.
Lodging tax.
Lodging tax. There it is. Thank you, Mayor. The lodging tax, which is designed specifically for getting people, heads in beds is the quote, but getting people from outside of the city of Yelm into Yelm, and this is exactly what that money will be used for: wayfinding signage, or at least a portion of it, pending, of course, the decision of that committee. And other than that, lastly, I do want to give my condolences to the family of Mr. Skogsberg. I'm not sure if any of y'all knew who he was, but he was a choir teacher, a longtime choir teacher, and an institutional man here in Yelm who is just beloved by all his students. He was such a nice person, and longtime choir teacher in Yelm. He impacted a lot of lives. I knew him. I didn't actually have class with him. I can't sing too well, minus maybe Prairie Elementary, that choir, when he sang to president. But I knew his kids though, and very good children. My sincere condolences to him and his family. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Kaminsky.
With Tad and Joe, I did do the EDC meeting, and it was very, very short. Tammy and Grant were very busy with all sorts of things, but they did show us that new the site thing that they showed us, where we could all find our houses and we could see what was on the map that Grant is, I can't remember what it's called. But it was really cool. So that was good. And I have no other meetings that I attended, but I just wanted to ask, is there anybody on the council right now that maybe should Molly be able to put together something in a type of a resolution? Is there anybody that would really not support the local businesses and the restaurants being open? Just wanted to get an idea. Is anybody really against that? Joe?
I just want to comment. I think it's going to be just my thoughts, but I think it's going to be a split vote from council if we do that. I think we should have the conversation though. If you want to write up a resolution,
okay.
We should have that.
It is like no, like right now today, maybe we wouldn't even bother, but I think it's worth giving it a shot. So thank you, Tracy. Thank you, EJ. Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
James, was that a question or a thumbs up?
I'll just comment real quick. I don't know if you're meaning a resolution similar to what Mossy Rock's doing, but I am gonna get with the person I referenced and get something wrote up that I think everyone will be on board with. And like we talked about before, there's really not a way to legally for the city to go and, okay, y'all can open up. Because I mean, the fact that we're having debates on a 2.5% increase on the FOP tells you right there, we can't afford to pay the fines to back everyone up. So I'm going to get that letter written up. I'll bring it to, I'll get with you, JW, go over that with you. And hopefully we can get that shot out to more than just Yelm and get more people on board. There's not a whole lot we can do as far as forcing their hand, but the more often there's a word in that guy's ear and constant pressure, I guess, maybe
worth
something will
trying.
happen.
Really
Yeah.
trying. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys. That's all I have.
And then one other question for anyone that's on the EDC, if the next meeting, if you guys can kind of figure out like where would they be in kind of bringing in not necessarily like heavy industrial, but trying to find businesses that maybe do like light warehouse work, that kind of stuff. Maybe not so much big box retail, but see where they could help us with that kind of stuff that brings more of that type of economic activity, I guess. And well, I think Joe's about to answer me.
I think he is. Go ahead, Joe.
Thanks, Mayor. Is this James or Councilmember Blair? Is this for, are you talking about the Thurston EDC?
The one that we were apparently about to lose our seat.
Yeah. So yeah, Thurston EDC. So it was my understanding, and kind of what I relayed to the EC as well, or at least the Executive Director, Michael Cade, was that we would get together during a study session, hopefully the first in January, to determine what our needs and wants are and how, and just be clear direction, have a clear direction for the EDC to work on those. So, and if it is more industrial, absolutely we'll send that off, but I want to make sure that I represent the whole council and all that, not just my views too, so.
For sure. Thank you.
Terry? Councilmember Kaminsky?
I can confirm that we have a new business coming into town. Modern Custom Woodworking has secured a piece of light industrial vacant land, and they're going to be building their operation out on Roten Road in 2 lots. And we have an offer on the third one as well. So things are coming to Yelm, although there's not much light industrial land available anymore.
That's awesome to hear. It's been underutilized for many years out there. So
great to see that built out.
Yeah, and Council, on that, if you know of another business that's opening up, we've had 4 ribbon cuttings with the Chamber of Commerce this year, but a couple of other businesses have opened up during the worst possible time you could think of to open up a new business, but they're actually doing well. And so if you know of one that's doing that, please bring it to our attention so that we can call them out. I know El Portal Carceneria, they're over in the plaza across from Cochran Park, just opened up. And I know I said that word wrong, but it's a Mexican food store that looks like pretty cool. So good luck to them and all the other businesses as they continue to struggle, and supporting the best that we can. Councilmember Wood.
You said that was over across from Cochran Park. I think.
Did I say Cochran? I meant, yeah. Well, it's way across from Cochran Park.
No, that's quite a ways across.
You can get there from Cochran Park. No, it's across from City Park, right next to the quarter mile and between Sisters and the dry cleaner. That little space right in there. Okay. As for my report, briefly, this last week I was on the Risk Management Services Agency Board of Directors meeting. That's a 3-hour or so meeting where we talk about claims against our insurer and how we can best prevent that from happening to our own cities, and a bunch of other work. Good organization to be a part of. Also, I chaired the Thurston Regional Planning Council on the 4th, and then attended the mayor's meeting on the mayor's forum that afternoon. And at the TRPC, one of the action items we had was approval of grant funding to 3 of the smaller cities in Thurston County. Rainier, Bucota, and Tenino all received $138,000 grants to help with some small road projects, sidewalk projects, and mobility projects that they would not normally have been able to afford themselves. And this is a great example of TRPC finding money and funneling it down to the smaller communities. They've done that for us a number of times. And they really do look out for the smaller south end of Thurston County because they know that we're all in this together. So thanks to the TRPC for that. It was mentioned the lights in the park has been a huge success. This was an offshoot of the Christmas in the Park Committee, which, as you remember, comprises many organizations, the school district, chamber, private business, private donors, and of course, the city supports that in many ways. And this year, they've taken it a bunch of different ways. They have the Yelm Christmas in the Park Facebook page that you can see all sorts of things going on. And one of them was they got the businesses in town to volunteer their time and efforts to put lighting displays up in the park. Public Works crew did a fantastic job. The official Christmas tree was put together basically by Johnny Edwards and his Leatherman tool. And then the Tunnel of Love is also his creation. I think he said he's got like 500 zip ties in that thing. And it's been met with just phenomenal appreciation from the community. Their families can go down and tour these lights safely as an integral family unit. We had a very small opening ceremony with a blessing by one of the local pastors and a few words from myself and the chamber director. And it's just a nice reflection of what our community really wants to do and continues to do to celebrate the good things in our lives. So that was really cool. And then today I attended the Chamber of Commerce Year in Review. And again, voiced my support for the ongoing work of the Chamber and how they support our business community. So, and that is all I have.
Move to adjourn.
Second by Molly. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
All right. Thank you, staff. Have a good night, everybody.
Go Hawks.